you were an atheist. We were both atheists,
Mm-hmm.
and we were very into rationality. And you came in and you're like, okay, Liv, just so you know, I'm not an atheist anymore. I met God, and he's got a very male energy and also a weird, wicked, dark sense of humor. So that's the situation. That was a very jarring moment.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. And was it a particular moment? Did you have a particular drug trip? What does meeting God look like?
Mm-hmm. I'd gotten very into a couple of particular drugs because of the sort of effects that they had on my consciousness and ways in which I felt like they allowed me to experience different parts of my mind that I didn't ordinarily have access to. I took this combination in a particular sequence and really in a way that no previous drug experience had. And I'd had a lot of drug experiences at that point in my life. It was reality just broke apart for me. I was suddenly removed from my body and saw myself from the outside. Then I zoomed out further and saw infinite me's in the same room stretching in all directions, and this sort of lit pathway between moments that I was following with my life.
Like a timeline?
Like a timeline, yeah. And then it zoomed out another level, and I saw that this was basically a crystal lattice in this larger world where there were sort of not God, but sort of Hindu-like deities around me. I remember there were these two wheels that they were turning, which had men tied to them, writhing in pain. I was so shocked by this and so afraid that I pulled myself out of the experience. I remember feeling like there was this river of energy, psychic sort of energy. I called it the river of consciousness in my notes after the fact. That was running through my room and wanting to pull me in to this sort of general unified experience of consciousness. I was really scared by that because I wanted to sort of retain my individual sense of self. And I was afraid that if I sort of gave into that I would disappear in some important way. One of the initial experiences that I had after that was trying to go back to the river and allowing myself to enter and feeling myself sort of dissolved in this universal consciousness. And it was just incredibly beautiful. And, people talk about returning to source, returning to home. Really one of the most beautiful experiences of my life.
So was the fear not warranted?
I think the fear was not warranted. I think that my experience in general with exploring spirituality and mysticism has been that a lot of things that seem really frightening at first are actually sort of about particular self-concepts and sense of ego that people have and are reluctant to let go of because they're sort of the self-image that we've built up over the course of our lives. But in moments where you're able to let go of those things, it really is the most profound, extraordinary experiences I've had in my life.
So this was about a week prior to then meeting God. How did you know, what was meeting God like, and how did you know that it was God? And how is it different to the Hindu gods that you felt like you saw?
Mm-hmm. I think it says something about the way that I experienced this event, that my really strong impulse was to figure out how to replicate it and record it and share it with other people. So the morning after this happened, I went and bought a fancy video camera and recording devices and set up an experimentation space in my house, and was sort of, I think I filled 100 notebooks during this time of my life, just trying to record everything that I was thinking and seeing, because I really believed that this was a real and the most important experience I'd ever had. And being able to have some evidence of that or some ability to transmit it to other people was like the most important thing I could be doing. I think though, sometimes people will profess to like having a belief, but will not really act on it. And to me, my obsessive devotion to sort of cataloging this in the months that followed feels like it's a testament to how deeply I believe that this was a real thing that was happening. On to the God point. I think so. This period of time was 5 years ago, and it's a bit hard to remember like the precise chronological order in which I had experiences. I have sort of records of things that I experienced that I go back and look at every once in a while. I would say sometime between like 3 and 7 days after I first had this experience, which was followed by subsequent experiences on the next days. That was like the first time that I met God. And to me, meeting God was sort of, so in recovery programs, which I later joined, people talk about having a God-shaped hole that they're trying to fill with drugs. And I think that experience of like meeting God, it's always so funny to say those words, but it made that hole in my life visible to me because it was filled for the first time. And I just felt complete and safe and loved and all of the things. Just sort of like this like power chord of all the beautiful and profound things to feel. And it was like nothing I'd ever felt. It was also tied to this like real sense of a volitional being that was sort of that I was interacting with. And one that, as I told you at the time, I guess, felt like it had a really sort of funny sense of humor.
How did you get a sense of humor from it? Did it speak words to you? Did you hear like actual words you could understand, or was it just like a feeling?
I think that I would describe what it was like as akin to hearing words, but sort of just having messages arise in my consciousness more so than like thinking that I was hearing somebody speak to me or something. There were just like particular types of phrases that would like well up in my consciousness over and over again when I would have these experiences and would feel like they really pointed to something. And there was that. There was also, I think there are a number of experiences in this vein, but one thing that I think people kind of get when I talk about it was this experience of suddenly flashing back to like all these moments in my life long buried in my like personal psyche or whatever, where I had like told jokes that nobody had laughed at the time. Which sounds really bizarre. Like this like feeling of feeling like an outsider or like not appreciated, something like this. Yeah. And this just like deep sense of like, no, I got it. That was funny. Like I was paying attention. And it just really felt like this like caring thing that, knew me to a really deep extent. Obviously those are all things that were like in my consciousness somewhere. So take it for what you will. But yeah, I think that's like a good little vignette of what the experience was like.